Hello, fellow listeners. Welcome to the Seasonedpreneur podcast, and we are glad that you have been listening to us. And I'm telling you guys, you have really decided to listen to the podcast and also leave some comments, especially on our podcast platform. And last time we talked about work, and hey, man, guys, I was told that I was a pastor. But really, that was not the main aim. I wanted her to understand about work, change the attitude about work. And once we change that an attitude toward work, then we realize that really we have to work to bear fruits, and that's it. However, let's not talk about work. If you have not listened to that podcast, go to the previous podcast, listen to it. Also, you can watch it on a YouTube channel available to us called The African Director. Go watch it there, and you can also leave your comment. We'll come back to it. I hope you're listening, and if you are, don't keep this yourself. Be the salt that seasons another. Welcome to the Seasonedpreneur podcast. Now today we're talking about money, guys. We're talking about money. And more importantly, how to have the money conversation. And this is important because I have heard and I've found a lot of people, including my friends, even my own partners. And we fear talking about money. And I'm telling you, it's not your fault, nor my fault, or their fault. Really, there is something about money that we need to train ourselves because it causes us not to have genuine conversations about money. Let me first of all talk about the mindset of money, because this is the big problem. The big problem here is the conversation about money. It's about the mindset that makes us not be comfortable to talk about money. People fear talking about money. Why? Number one, it could be mindset issues. And mindset issues, I mean, things that we were taught when we were young. I remember one day my mom told me, a lot of rich people with a lot of money are bad people. The picture painted at my young age is that money is bad because it's money that makes people bad. And that was the mentality that I have always had, that being rich, being wealthy, having money is bad. Or fear of money, or feeling guilty when you have a lot of money. I remember in campus, I once dated a lady who was so furious when I told her that I want to be rich and that I want to buy 100 million shillings vehicle. And she always asked me for what? And you see, I would feel guilty if I had a lot of money, and I would feel that I need to give it out and to spend it. Those kinds of mindset. Number two is culture, right? Culture. In some cultures and communities, it is wrong to talk about money. It's a taboo to cover money conversation. Actually, let me give you an example. I thought it was even bad to ask my friend how much money they earn in their job. And one day we had traveled to South Africa for one of the events. We go to a debate event for one of our clients. And I met this young lady. She's a teacher at one of those international schools. And she told me something that I'll never forget. This is what she said. That you see, some of these teachers that I meet, and I ask them how much they earn, they are so defensive, they feel so offended that they will not talk to me anymore about money. And I asked them, okay, so where is this conversation going to? They told me, sometimes I asked them those questions. I know she's young. I think she's either younger than me. And to her, she has no problem about asking people they earn. But her objective was so that they can know they are being underpaid and that there's opportunities elsewhere. Because she was telling me that once she asked a person about how much they're getting paid, she would say a person gets paid 30,000, 40,000. Yet, she's getting paid 3 times more than that. So sometimes it's good for you to converse about money so that a person could tell, oh, okay, for your kind of work, you should be getting paid more. I have a friend of mine who is into the construction industry. And once he tells me how much money they charge, I tell them, no, you should charge more. And they charge more and they get paid more. What if they did not tell me how much they earn? And you see, those are the cultures that limit us. And number 3 is perception. This is the perception that if you talk about money, you are materialistic and you think nothing else apart from money. And you see, of course, that's not a place you want to be, where people think you're materialistic. But the perception that if you talk about money or materialistic makes a lot of us not really converse about money. And it's really, really bad. And it brings a lot of shame And also, it makes us not value ourselves or believe in the value that we think we are. And those are the three things: mindset, culture, and perception. Where are we in this whole money conversation? Now, we fear money, and so money fears us. You fear money, money stays away from you. So in business, you need to consider money talk as a very important thing, and we need to say and be very clear that talking about money in business is not a taboo. Why? You are in business for one sole thing: to gain profit. Of course, you need to impact, add value, but you're in business to make profits. You're in business to make money, or else you could go do a CSR, a community-based some initiative, and you still have impact. But if you are adding value through a business model, the aim of a business model is to make money, but as you add value, right? We need to learn how to negotiate. We need to learn how to talk about value. Most importantly, when to talk about money, how to talk about it. And in this podcast, we are talking about practical ways we are going to look about money, right? So money matters, and it could sometimes raise a lot of emotions or emotional insensitivity when it comes to handling money and how it is handled. And we want to look at how we need to have money conversation, and this podcast in context of business, but then you can also use it in context of your spouse, family. But we are looking at how do you have money conversation so that it cannot go out of proportion in terms of emotions and being sensitive. If you don't have money matters or money conversation in a business conversation, then you're missing on a very important part of business that you don't think about, right? When do we start to talk about money? Number one is when you are doing our first interaction. And I think this is all business things. And once you understand business things, it becomes very easy. Now, it depends on where you are with the client. Number one, if it is the first time for you to meet this client, I want to advise, please don't talk about money. They don't know you. You don't know them. You don't know what they want. You don't know what's their budget. You don't know what you want to achieve. Please, and we talk about this later in another point. Don't talk about money at this stage. The first thing you need to understand is who they are, what they want to achieve, their desires, what's their goal for having this business talk with you. Now, if you give your price upfront, you give up your power. And I will repeat again. If you give your price upfront, you have given up your power. And then what it means, if right now a client came to me and asked me about my consultation price and I told them it's 20,000 shillings per day, even if they had a budget of 50,000, they will not say that they have 50,000 shillings, and they will now play me with the 20,000 shillings. They want it for less. They want to pay me 15 or 13 or even 10, and they will play with me with that price. But if you establish value first, then the conversation becomes very different. So I suggest in the first interaction, you plan for what we call a discovery session, other calls it a consultancy session or a first time meeting. And this meeting is to really know the client personally, remember. Number two is to establish value, but you establish value by understanding exactly what they want to achieve, their goals, what it means for them, how much they are willing to put up to get what they want done. That way to give you a scope of this is the scope and the magnitude of what they want to be done, to give you even a better way to do quotes. However, what about those clients who ask for a quote out from in the beginning? I want just to know your prices, nothing more. Now for those people, you just send them the quote. But what I would do, I'll send them a range. I'll tell them for the kind of work, our range comes from around 20,000 shillings to 80,000 shillings. It depends. I'll send them a range. However, there are situations where a client would want to get a quote after your conversations with them. And to me, this is what I do. I don't like back and forth with the client, especially when it comes to price. If the client is willing to tell me about their price, then I am willing to ask them about their budgets. And how I do this is I'll tell them something like, so do you mind telling me about your budget? So that you can not have this back and forth. What's your budget? What's your cap? And some will not. But those who will, then you know what you're working with. If they don't, then go ahead and just quote as you value yourself. Then you'll come discuss that later. But number 2 is, as in the stage where you are doing a pitch or a proposal so that you can close a deal, at this stage is where now most of the money conversation happens. And we can have it deeper in this stage and more blunt. Now, there is need to be clear on work and its compensation, and that's what we call business. If you are running a business, work has to have a compensation of money. Meaning, if I have to give you a service, then the conversation, as long as you're talking about the service, then the conversation of money has to come in, because that's how you also communicate back to us. We can be very subtle on how you bring this up. That's how I would do it personally. Is once we do a proposal, this is how I would say it. Now, since we have agreed about a scope of work and the proposal and what we need to do, I think it's prudent enough for us to talk about the compensation and the payment and how you think about the quote. If you don't mind, we can talk about it now. Very subtle. But you started with, now since we have looked at the proposal and we have all agreed on the way forward, I think it is prudent for us to talk about the money now, so that you can be able to know what we're doing from here. And it's very important, or else we can lead them to start the conversation. And how you could do them is, so this is something I've done before. Okay, now we have seen that the proposal is okay. If the proposal and all of us are comfortable, then can we go ahead and start preparing the contract? And they would end up saying, before that, can you talk about price? And they will lead on. Or even you can say, if there is no objection about the cost of this project, then can we go ahead and sign a contract? I will send a team over to do the documentation. And then they will onwardly say, okay, we have a little bit to talk about price. Do you think you can get a discount? And then they will eventually start the money conversation. Actually, it is better if it comes from them. And those are the things that we need to understand. Why? Because money and price communicates value. The way you handle it really matters, because it communicates value and where you place money. Most of the people discuss things about money, and it happens and people perceive as if you really need it so much. People then see as if you're desperate, and they use that against you. They use it as an arsenal against you. Money communicates value. And clients who downplay price, they are downplaying your value. Clients who are downplaying your cost are downplaying your service and your value. And it all starts from how we play it ourselves. And to me, I like not having this conversation from the beginning. Sometimes we say it's according to policy. Our head of finance will reach out, or you get something from a procurement. And I mean, we just find a way of trying to say that, yes, the focus is not money, but then we have to have this money conversation because it's important, because we have to send an invoice, you have to pay us for the services. An example is when a client spends a lot of money on something and then tries to spend less on you. For example, when a client is spending a lot of money on our website, but then is not spending a lot of money for SEO and SEM, really, he's downplaying your skills, because he knows search engine optimization and search engine marketing is important for your website. But if they are willing to pay so much money to the website developer, but not to you to do SEM and SEO for them, then what they have done is that they have communicated that they don't trust you. And if another person comes that they trust, then they will pay the money. So it's an issue of a client downplaying your value. Either they feel it's not worth that amount of money, or they feel you're not the one fit for business. And that's why it's important for you to have this money conversation, so that they can really tell you exactly what they feel about this whole thing, right? So let's talk about consequences of not talking about money. Number 1 is that if you don't talk about money in business, then you run the risk of not pursuing late payments. You did work, got paid a particular portion of money, that's what is remaining. Some of it you did 100% on credit. So you need to have the money conversation with the client, because then you need to go and tell them that we delivered as asked, we need our payment back. And these small payments that are not getting paid would lead to you getting out of business. And I'm telling you, you can easily get out of business because of people having your money, because you don't have cash flow to do more business. And the third one is lowering your rates. You will find that if you do not know how to talk about money, you'll find that the people who know how to talk about money, especially if they are on the other side of the table, they will always negotiate you downwards. And they will downplay you. They will make sure that you feel disvalued and less valuable. And the next thing you do, you lower your values, and they can lower their values up to the smallest amount. So you need to learn this, how to have this money conversation, so that you cannot lower your prices. Let's finalize with talking about tips of having a fruitful, effective money conversation. The tips of having effective money conversation. Number one, you need to use range. And this happens when a client is asking you prices, especially upfront before having an initial meeting with you. And sometimes they want you to give their prices so that they can use it as a game. And when I was giving price upfront, okay, what's your cost? We tunalipishanga 50,000 shillings. Okay. Kini kuna mwingine alikuwa ametulipisha 35. Kwa nini unatulipisha 50? You see, you have already given their price afterwards, and yet they don't even know you, they don't know your value. So the best thing to do is you give to a range. And to me, I like giving a very wide range. And how I do is the client asks, what are your risks, or what is the cost in this project? And I'll tell them, normally our prices for a project like this one range somewhere between 30,000 shillings and 150,000 shillings. But it all depends on a lot of things. So we need to go into a meeting so that you can establish within that range, where can we work? See what you have done? You have just given a range, very wide for them to do a specific place. If they don't complain, then their price is within that range. The only thing you need to know during the meeting, is it closer to the 30,000 or closer to the 150,000 shillings? That's how you need to learn about price, right? So you use range. Number two is do not commit in the first conversation. And again, I say this, please do not commit in the first conversation. After the meeting or the consultation session, you need time. And how I do it is, once we go to a meeting, a first time meeting, and to avoid committing anything about price, because whatever price you give to the client, that is the price they are going to work with, and they go back to their offices. If you tell them that normally ni 20k, wataenda wakijua ni 20k, they will go thinking that it is 20,000 shillings. But you don't do that. What you do is, finish the consultancy session or the discovery session, they expect you to give them price. But you see, once you give a price when you have not agreed or when they have not had your proposal, even if you bought a proposal of more money than they have, say they will not go with it. For example, if you tell the client is 20,000 shillings, wambie ni 20. I think tumeisha fanya kitu kama kama 20. You have already started to commit, and the client will work with that amount of money, yet their proposal is a bit more expensive than that price. And then you'll never get the deal, because whatever you told them in the first beginning and whatever you've shared on the proposal, it's heaven and earth. So they will not enter into business with you. And how you do after the discovery session is that you try avoid giving those prices and give them a later date where you can now have done your proposal and the amount. And this is how you do it. Hey, so that was a great meeting. You guys have really downloaded a lot of information about your business. We did not know that that's much work you wanted to be done. So we need to observe this thing and really think about how we can be able to implement whatever you want in our strategy. So what I would recommend is that let's give us around 7 days to develop a very nice proposal. And I suggest we meet back again here on Wednesday at 2 p.m. with a proposal and an estimate cost or the exact cost of this project. Is that okay? And most clients say, hey, I mean, that's fine. So can we meet here next Wednesday again? And most of the time, you will have a whole week to think about that proposal. And then you have a whole week to think about the price. By the time you are coming to the meeting and they ask about the price, you know how to justify it, you know how to talk about it. So do not commit in the first conversation. Next is practice saying your worth. And this is very, very important. And actually, you can say to the mirror or say to your wife, guys, I charge 20,000 shillings per day for a photography gig. It's as simple as that. Fees or your costs are facts, not emotions. Once you establish value, it's not an emotional thing, it's a factual thing. And so you cannot really twist my emotions to try to twist my fees or my costs. You can't do that. Never apologize for what you're worth. Costs, your rates are facts, not emotions, and do not apologize for stating your worth. This is how to communicate it. There are several ways you can say it. You can be very blunt. For example, saying, my service cost is 30,000 shillings. Very simple, right? You can also say, the quote for this project is 30,000 shillings. You can now have a little bit more sophistication and say, clients similar to yours who we have done this kinds of project for pay somewhere between 30,000 to 80,000 shillings. Or I think the last project we did with this kind of scope costed somewhere between 400,000 shillings and above. Don't forget to talk about your policies. For example, if you have a discount policy or you have a deposit policy, which we have as a company ourselves, and we say, now according to policy, it's important that to book us for work, you have to pay 50% upfront or 20% on signing of the contract, and then 60% within 2 weeks. I mean, set your policies so that they can see that you are serious. You need to communicate it upfront. For some, you would say, by the way, we need to be paid 50% upfront, and on the day of the delivery, we need to have this. Or some say you need to sign us a purchase order, or maybe you need to give us an LPO for this kind of project. I mean, converse everything, even money policies that affect them. Now, if the client has an objection on the price, you can say, if that price is out of line or beyond your budget, then I think we can review our services and see what we can remove until we get what fits your budget. Very subtle, guys. You will find that your client appreciates this kind of conversation, and if they are business people, they will appreciate more because they know business also, right? And with these tips, the client will really appreciate that you are being candid with them, and that they know that you are also a serious business person. They cannot take advantage of you. But how do you normally have your money conversations? Put that in the comment section below. Whether you're listening to us on the podcast platform or on YouTube, put it in the comment section below, and we are able to see also, we can learn a two of things from you or a ton of things from you. Do that. Do not forget to enter the Creators Club, because some of these findings are enjoyed by the Creators Club. When we talk about sales, talk about money conversations. How do you talk about money in a very subtle way that is extremely enticing? It's very important. But join the directors group. The link is the comment below, because this group is a place where business entrepreneurs, we interact. We help one another to grow. It's all exclusive. Things that are on social media, they get more than that, including webinars, newsletters, things that will help them grow themselves as entrepreneurs and grow their businesses. And until next time, also remember that you need to be the one that seasons another. Cheers.